Welcome back into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, sportsmemo.com. Our next guest up, Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Teddy, welcome in. How you feeling?
I just love your voice opening these shows because you don't talk like that in real life. And then you go, it's Teddy Covers and the best show. And it's something about that. It makes the hair on the back of my neck, you get that little burst of energy at the start of every show with you, Drew. And it's just your completely voice intonation. So I appreciate that.
And Teddy, you're one of the guys where it's, what's it called? Voice. I don't know. The ups and downs with your voice. You're really good at it. Actually, just doing these shows with you is what kind of gives me the Teddy Covers from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, exactly. As you're talking in, you go up, and then when you're done, you go down.
Yeah,
But it's been a long time since I did any real broadcasting classes. I mean, this is from the '80s, the stuff that I remember still. So. We're sports bettors and first and media second, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, we're more interested in the winners here, guys, and we're going to be breaking down the next. Actually, we got a couple games canceled here, so it's only 9 games on this slate with Teddy Covers, the top of the Saturday card here. But hopefully, we can keep you a little bit entertained, but more importantly, put you on the right side of some of these games. Starting off at the top of the card here, Saturday, November 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, TCU at Kansas here, Teddy. 155, 156, the rotation numbers. We got the TCU Horned Frogs, minus 24 road favorites, 51.5 being the total.
So you're going to hear me talk about let's not catch the falling knife a couple of times on today's show.
Very important concept.
It is. When the markets don't have a team priced correctly, okay, either overvalued or undervalued, because there's a couple of situations that we can talk about teams where we're not going to try to catch we're not going to try to bet against the rising teams. But this is a Kansas team that has 0 wins, 0 covers, and 0 unders. This is going to be their 8th game. Okay. They did have a push on a total. They had a push ATS as well. But it's Thanksgiving week. The markets have not been able to drop Kansas's power rating enough to get them under the number in any game all season. Okay. I can't back a team like Kansas. I just can't. Because I'm not even at this stage convinced that the markets have priced them appropriately. This is a bottom feeder football team. Last year, TCU beat them 51-14. TCU was minus 15.5 in that game. It's worth noting, last time on this field, Kansas pulled off the outright upset, 27-26 as 13.5-point dogs against TCU. And TCU's had those kind of problems. This is a TCU, they've had problems in Lawrence. They've had problems offensively all year. They haven't scored more than 34 points all season. They scored four unders in the last 5 games, and the one over wasn't because their offense was great. All right. So I certainly don't want TCU betting them over off a Gary Patterson bye. You know what I mean? That's not – and Kansas is all overs because their defense can't stop anyone. I don't trust TCU to go I don't trust Kansas to score points. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't want to lay this price with TCU. Their offense isn't that good. And it's not a team that routinely is blowing out opponents. It's just an easy pass for me. This is one of those games that, I'm breaking it down more here on the show than I would, I looked at this game for 2 minutes. I'm like, I no way I'm taking Kansas. There's no way I'm laying this price with TCU. It's an easy pass. Over, under. Kansas only plays overs because their defense is so bad. TCU's offense isn't good enough to take over to capitalize on that. It's an easy pass. Good luck if you bet it. Not me.
Yeah, Teddy, great analysis there, especially with the concept of you don't want to catch a falling knife. Guys, it's a term that I at least first heard in the financial investment business, talking about a stock that's going down. You don't want to buy it on the way down because you don't know how far it's going to go down. Like Teddy's talking about, the market pricing it is just incorrectly. You'd rather give up a couple of the profits on the way back up, catch it that way. It's the same with the teams like this. Kansas, what are they? 0-6-1 ATS or 0-7 ATS, whatever you want to call it. They haven't won a game if you've been betting on them. And it's a concept you don't want to pick the point where they're going to win. That's very difficult to do. I'd rather give up a unit on the backside. They look good and then maybe look to bet them next week. Now that's hopeful thinking for Kansas fans, Kansas backers. But I totally agree with you, Teddy. I love that you brought that up in terms of teams that are 0-6, 0-7 ATS. Why bet on them on this game? That's a very hard proposition to be a winning sports bettor.
Sure, and then it's not like Kansas, all these, they're just short. Kansas was they were right there. They're playing good. No. This is a team that is very bad, and the markets at no point this season have they been able to make price Kansas as bad as they are. Mm-hmm. Am I going to say this is the week they're going to do it? No. Easy pass.
Teddy, next game up here in the Sun Belt, rivalry, Georgia Southern at Georgia State. We're seeing Georgia Southern here in the battle of GSU, by the way. They do argue about that. -1.5 or -2. That's Georgia Southern in Atlanta, the old Turner Field, 52.5 being the total here, Teddy.
Yeah, and I'm just going to abbreviate Southern versus State.
That works. Okay.
So it's not so last year Southern wins 38-10. The year before, they win 35-14. They were single-digit favorites in both games. So it wasn't like they were way better. And Southern was way better on the field in both of those contests. Now, one thing's very different between those two meetings and this meeting. And the difference is that this time around, State has a quarterback. Kid Cornelius Brown. We talked about him last week. 13 touchdowns. 5 rushing scores. He's just coming off a game in which he threw for 334 yards. He completed 68% of his passes. And again, that was at South Alabama. The Jaguars are not a team that is particularly good. But this year, State's got a quarterback. Is that going to be enough? It's been, again, 28 and 21-point wins for Southern over the last 2 seasons. And this year, you make a case that they're once again, they're certainly program-wise, Georgia Southern's been a good notch or two ahead of Georgia State of late. Whether that's going to be the case this year, now that Georgia State is a quarterback, is another question entirely. And Drew, I'll ask you, because this is one of these games where we've seen a fairly significant line move. We look at the Sports Memo live on screen right now. Georgia State opened as high as -4. Now, that wasn't the prevailing number. That was the one sports book that Circa opened it for. But now I'm seeing Southern -1.5, -2, just about everywhere. So we've seen a lot of sharp money go towards the road team on this one, despite the upgraded quarterback for the home squad.
Yeah, Teddy, I mean, talking about, just matchup standpoint here, Georgia Southern in the trenches is a little bit more talented. I could see them getting a push on offense, also on defense. And that's what I worry about betting Georgia State. If they can't kind of stop it's not a triple option offense, but it is a run heavy attack at you with option principles. If you're having trouble stopping that, it's one of those games where it could kind of snowball on you, and this score could look a lot uglier than it really is for the Panthers, just because they can't stop the run. You know how that is in the sport of football. But Georgia State does have the more talented quarterback. Like we talked about last week, Cornelius Brown, he's one of those kids, 6'5", 190, fast, athletic, looks to be able to throw the ball well. You kind of wonder why he's in the Sun Belt, not in the SEC here, throwing passes for Georgia State instead of the University of Georgia, something like that. But he finds himself where he is. So it's kind of a tricky handicap. I think you can make cases for both sides, Teddy.
Well, Georgia's got a quarterback. We'll talk about him now.
JT Daniels taking snaps now for the number 13th ranked Georgia Bulldogs at South Carolina Gamecocks. We got Georgia, the Bulldogs, -21 in the hook here. More than 3 touchdown favorites on the road in Columbia, South Carolina. 49 being the total here, Teddy.
Yeah, and of course Georgia's going to take the money here. And of course they're in revenge. South Carolina pulled the upset last year. They were 21-point dogs. They won the game 20-17. 2 years ago, Georgia -8.5. They won 41-17 going away, blew South Carolina off the field in that game. So South Carolina's on a pretty nasty skid, and everybody knows about it. All right, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. And all the lines in those games were all between +4 and +12.5. So there were games where South Carolina was the weaker team, but games in theory where they're supposed to be fairly competitive. And I guess they were competitive to Ole Miss, and ended up blowing it late and blowing the cover late, lost that game 59-42. And then the Muschamp got fired, and they came back. They had Missouri last week. And Lo and behold, 17-10 in that game. So they found ways, and again, plus 4.5, plus 5 in that contest. So they're finding ways to lose high-scoring games and low-scoring games. When the defense plays well, the offense didn't do it. When the offense played well, the defense didn't do it. This is a team that the markets are having a lot of trouble getting people to bet South Carolina right now. We're seeing it again this week. South Carolina beat them last year, okay? Mm-hmm. And Georgia, for as excited everyone, JT Daniels, look what he did last week. Dude, he hung 31 on Mississippi State. You and I could hang 31 on Mississippi State. It's not like a good defense, dude. Not even close. I mean, it really isn't. And their last cover came October 10th. Georgia's 0-4 against the spread, just like South Carolina is their last 4 games. But South Carolina's getting South Carolina stinks. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Georgia's not making their backers any money. All right. Everyone's in love. JT Daniels threw 4 touchdown passes. Better defense this week than the one he faced last week. The problem with getting, there's a lot of problems getting in the window with South Carolina. You have the falling knife theory. With Georgia's a falling knife too. The markets haven't gotten them priced correctly. But the QB situation at South Carolina, what the hell? So now Bobo's in charge. And what Bobo does is he benches his guy in Colin Hill that he brought with him from Colorado State and brings in the Frosh Luke Doty against Missouri, and that didn't really work. I don't know what South Carolina is one of these teams that's really hard to get to the window with right now. Everyone's betting them over last week because the defense got torched and the defense played well against Missouri. Georgia's not a team I trust to lay this price. I know it's the kind of situation where if Georgia has the opportunity, being they lost last year, they might punch in that extra TD. They might not take a knee late. They might be throwing long in the second half in this game up comfortably. But that's priced in, man. You've seen nothing but Georgia money. You're still seeing nothing but Georgia money. 21.5 is too rich for this better. It's a pass for me.
Teddy, it's a great kind of handicapping 101 here with both teams, losing bets, 8 total in a row here if you combine the two of them. It's just, at least in my experience, South Carolina is getting more of the headline clipping, firing their coach, and that's why they're not taking money, in my opinion.
Yeah, every headline, again, for every game that I'm looking at in college football, I'm going to Google News. When I Google News, one team name, the other team coach's name, then the other team name, and the other team coach's name. And you see just what comes up. You get a good handful of articles. You have beat writers that you follow. You get stuff. All the headlines for Georgia's great. JT Daniels is awesome.
Right.
And it's like, no, you're supposed to. They didn't live up to expectations last week, and the headline said they were exceeded expectations last week. So the perception here is not matching with the reality for the Georgia Bulldogs. And for South Carolina, again, in 2020, the teams that are done, I'm not looking to get on them at the end of the season. And it looks like, South Carolina may well be done.
And guys in the chat box, welcome in here. Proud Babylonian, Johnny Outlaw, the Real Jolly Ranger, all you guys, man, too many to name. I appreciate you joining us. Nut Flush Allen as well. Luke in the house saying you're just watching us on another show. Well, Luke, if you guys are watching live, feel free, whether you're at work, at home, it's all welcome here. I'll be hosting multiple handicappers throughout the day. We're talking every single American football game this weekend, both college football and the NFL from a betting perspective. Pretty much one right after the other, simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So feel free to chime in on the chat box. Also, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below on the YouTube channel. And if you'd rather listen podcast wise, we do have the Sports Memo podcast wherever you're downloading your podcasts up. That will be there after we finish all these shows. I'll put that up there. So you got multiple ways to listen to us. Also on Twitter, guys, at Drew Martin Bets. Feel free to reach out to me. Any questions? Now, you don't need to ask any questions on asking a question, hey, hit this game, because we're going to be hitting all the games. I know a lot of you guys like to do that. No need to do that. But on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets. Love answering any questions. Also on Twitter, a great follow, at Teddy_covers. So Teddy, we got another game here. Kentucky at Florida, 12 noon Eastern. We're seeing 60.5 or 61 being the total in Gainesville, Florida, -23. That's the Gators at home.
First, we got to go back to what you just said. Are you properly caffeinated? Because you're doing 4 different pods going through every college game on the board and 2 more for the NFL. You better be caffeinated up today, brother.
Wait, what else was the? I do. I have my coffee right here, Teddy. But we got a holiday tomorrow, and we can't have people. You got to spend time with their families. There's no other options.
Sure. But it means for a heck of a show for you guys out there who are watching this live. You'll see Drew slowly start to keel over as the afternoon progresses here in Las Vegas, and it's a good point. EGOTB, every game on the board. Something we've been doing at Sports Memo forever, and it's something that I know the viewers and listeners have come to appreciate, especially on this holiday weekend. All right, let's talk Florida and Kentucky. And by the way, whatever, we'll talk about it at the end, but happy Thanksgiving, everyone, blah, blah, blah. We'll get there. Florida, Kentucky. Last year, Florida's laying 8.5, 9. They win by 8. 2018, Kentucky finally snaps the skid. They won 27-16. 2017, Florida came back in the last couple of minutes and stole it 28-27. Kentucky still got the money. Mm-hmm. So in recent seasons, Kentucky's been the value team in this particular SEC East rivalry. But it's hard for me to like about anything that I've seen about Kentucky in recent weeks. First they beat Vandy 38-35. All right, Vandy's played 6 other games, and they never got to more than 21. Then last week, Alabama, obviously Alabama kills everyone, but not 63-3, they don't kill everyone. And Kentucky moved the ball early, they didn't put points on the board, and then they basically quit on both sides of the football. So we have a bad defense performance against Vandy and a bad defense performance against Alabama, and a defense that is not up to recent Stoops editions, and that's a concern for me. A big concern for me. And the offense, by the way, this. Look at the 3 wins they have. 2 of them came. Pick sixes were huge in the win over Mississippi State and Tennessee. Both times the defense keyed the victory. The defense isn't there. This Kentucky team is problematic. And of course, the offense right now is ranked 116th in the country. They've been held under 200 yards 3 times the last 6 weeks. And again, it's Alabama. But it's not a good offense, and it's a struggling defense, and it's late in the season. And we talked about Kyle Trask last week. And Trask on national TV, on the ESPN game, we have a QB that's going for the Heisman. Trask now the Heisman favorite. Okay. And we said, I don't want to step in front of this guy this week in this opportunity. And, of course, it wasn't a great game. They were minus 31.5. They only won by 21. They didn't play their best football. That doesn't mean I don't believe in the concept. Okay, the concept is this is a guy who's going for a Heisman Trophy facing a defense that is a little bit worn down, maybe a lot worn down, and the coach has a chance they may run up this score. I don't want the dog here. And again, the price, you're not getting a whole lot of bargains on the Gator side here. It's in the 23.5. But that's the way I would look.
100% agreement, Teddy. You're paying a little bit of tax here to be on the Florida side, but with the Heisman, style points are going to start to matter, not only for the Heisman, but for, they're trying to reel in Texas A&M to get a playoff spot here. I don't want to be fading Florida down the stretch, Teddy.
No, and of course, in Gainesville, we talk about Trask, he didn't get it done last week. Last time he was in Gainesville, he hung 63 on Arkansas.
Yeah.
And we talk about a quarterback, 31 touchdowns, 3 INTs. On the season. Dan Mullen, worth noting, 8-1 against the spread, his last 9 at home. 2 of those were FCS schools, so we call it 6-1 against the spread, the last 7 against the FBS competition, D1 competition. This has been a good role for Mullen and the Florida Gators.
Talk about good roles here. We got SMU at ECU. Now they are on the road here, but we've talked about it in the past, Teddy. Sonny Dykes laying points against a team where they can kind of run it up. That's a role where maybe I would look to be betting on SMU. However, ECU has had their moments. They went toe-to-toe with Tulsa. Maybe should have won that game. Tulsa's a good team in the AAC, but we are seeing SMU minus 12 in the hook, road favorites, 67.5 the total in this one, Teddy.
It's the last game of the season for ECU. No bowl coming for the Pirates this year. So it's the last home game, senior day, that sort of thing. You generally expect some kind of effort from squads in games like this one. East Carolina won 28-3 last week against Temple. We'll talk about – we're not going to talk about Temple. Their game got canceled. Mm-hmm. So I'll bring up the concept here because I saw this on Twitter. And someone was asking, he's like, Temple was playing their fifth string quarterback. Is that guy really worse than the fourth stringer or the third stringer? And it's like, yes, the drop off from the fourth stringer to the fifth stringer might be bigger than the drop off from the first stringer to the third stringer. Okay. The fifth string quarterback is a guy who cannot play quarterback at the college level. Okay. At a school like Temple, maybe at USC, you find a fifth string quarterback, then come in and play and chuck it around. At Temple, the fifth string quarterback is like, all right, the coach's friend's son. I mean, maybe. It's not it is a difference when you have a fifth string quarterback because the offense doesn't work. And the offense didn't work for Temple last weekend. East Carolina is not going to hold a whole lot of teams to a field goal. But when you're facing a fifth string quarterback, and it matters. And before that, they lost by 38 to Cincy. They lost by 17 to Tulane. And that's the game that I took a shot at East Carolina there. I'm like, this is their spot. Tulane, this is a team that can beat. And they were just outclassed in that contest. They really were. They were not, it was one that I was wrong on. I don't like being wrong. It's okay. Sometimes you're going to lose coin flip games. Sometimes some games down to the wire. But in a game that you're not in, you're like, all right, I need to change my opinion about this team. My opinion on this wrong. And it wasn't just one game. It was multiple games. They were never in the game. I'm concerned about SMU's mentality this week. All right. We like Sonny Dykes in this role, but that's a crusher they suffered against. They led Tulsa 21-0, and they just let it get away. The offense didn't work down the stretch. They lost the game 28-24. Then the canceled game last week. Yeah, it's a regular season finale. They're 7-2. They're going bowling. There's something to play for. But I just wonder, coming off of Tulsa loss and then the canceled game, if we're going to get SMU and Steve Buechele's, best game here. The things I like about East Carolina offensively, I like Holton Ahlers. He's been pretty good. They got a nice Frost running back in Harris, who's been at times a beast. And I don't know that SMU matches up particularly well against him. But it's not a game I'm getting involved with. Not side, not total. It's for me right now a pretty clear pass.
Teddy, you're talking about fifth string quarterbacks here. One thing, we have high school football coaches that watch these shows a lot. Not by name or anything, but they DM me on Twitter, always saying different aspects. And one thing that reminds me of is like in high school football, even in college football, when you get down to a certain quarterback level, a lot of these teams really only travel with like 3 quarterbacks. So after that, it's like you kind of put your best athlete at the quarterback position and just kind of run around and run a little option attack at that point. We've seen it in the past. So I wonder if like Temple here out the gate, if there could almost be an advantage either on betting on them or fading them, because why haven't they gone down that route?
Because Temple hasn't anyone at practice. All right. They've had Temple's been hit by COVID as hard as anybody. They've had issues all year. And the one time where I thought they were getting healthy, it didn't work out quite that way, obviously. But you're not going to install a new offense for your fifth string quarterback when you don't have there's no one to install it with. That'd be my guess.
Okay,
it's hard. It's hard if you're a team that's been practicing a certain way since August, and then you've run out of quarterbacks, and now you have to play a completely different style. There's no way to do that, and that's why they scored 3 points against East Carolina last week.
Teddy, we got Pittsburgh at Clemson up next. We got about 3 or 4 games here next, so we'll steam through these. Clemson -24 home favorites, 55 the total here, Teddy.
Yeah, I've just put up a free play on this game over at sportsmember.com. If you want full detailed written analysis, you can get that. I made a case for Pitt plus the points. Last time these two teams have played, 2018, Clemson wins 42-10. They were -28 in that game. 2016, Pitt's last trip to Death Valley, they pulled off the upset, 43-42, plus 21.5 in that contest. Trevor Lawrence is back for Clemson. And Clemson, of course, they haven't played since losing the first Saturday of November to Notre Dame, that crazy double overtime game. And they had last week's game canceled. They had a bye. And now here they are. So, yes, Trevor Lawrence is back. Clemson isn't covering numbers. We talk about Georgia not covering numbers. Clemson's got 2 point spread covers this year. They've been -24 or higher 6 times. They covered one of those point spreads. It's a distracted team. It's a team that has bigger fish to fry than beating Pitt by margin. Again, they got the revenge for the last time they lost. They beat them by 32 the last time these two teams met. And the markets are very concerned about the Pitt COVID situation. They were without 16 players last Saturday against Virginia Tech, and they blew them out. And Virginia Tech's no joke, and they blew them out in that ball game. And it was, 7 guys with starting experience. And it's worth noting that Narduzzi was saying that none of the Pitt players who were out tested positive during last week's 3 rounds of testing. They were all from testing and protocols repeated before for the game against Georgia Tech that never got played. Narduzzi, quote, "We've been blessed to play 9 so far. Nothing surprising me. I think Clemson, Florida State was the first game that was squashed on a Saturday morning. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to travel down there and have it get squashed. We hope we get to play." Dabo's still bitching at Miami, at the Florida State. Quitting, and that to me is a negative too. Quote, "I know Pitt went down there and played, and they had a positive kid, but they played the game. The rules were never set up that if you have a positive on a Friday, you cancel the game. Never set up that way. And I'm not trying to be a doctor. I just listen to my doctors 1,000%. That's why it's stated, because they wanted blah, 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 blah. So it's frustrating. So we move on. I don't like coaches talking about last week's game this week. All right. I like this Pitt team as an underdog in general. And Clemson is burning their backers' money week after week. And, Trevor Lawrence is back this week. It's a Joes versus pros game. We're seeing the sharp money on Pitt, and I agree with that assessment. You'll ask me at the end of the show what my favorite play is. You already know what it is.
All right, Teddy. But we do have some guys saying, is Dabo going to take out the FSU frustration on Pitt? I just want to ask your opinion here. You've watched a lot of football over the years. I mean, with what happened there in Tallahassee and Dabo going after Tallahassee, just pretty much saying, like, I'm not interested, or I don't care what they have to say going down there. I mean, that is an interesting concept and something that I've kind of circled here in my notes. If that game does get made up, the spread was minus 35. I'm looking to bet on Clemson.
That would be a game, but I would lay 60.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it gets made up, the spread will not be 35. And I'm being facetious. I wouldn't lay 60. I would probably look for a first half wager.
Okay.
I think, but one would think if it gets replay, and I don't think it will, but if it happens, Florida State's not looking to make up games right now. Florida State's looking to get their season over with as quickly as possible, as we'll talk about in just a minute.
Yeah, for sure, guys. And check them out, sportsmemo.com or wagertalk.com. Teddy covers hot right now, 68% all sports since Halloween. He's also 9-2, 82% November NFL. His 5% in November, full season 5% NFL for the whole season, up over 60%. And my favorite stat here, guys, 209 and 160. That's 57% in the NFL since week 1, 2015. So over the long term, guys, killing the NFL. Also 59% college football the last 4 weeks. So the last month in college football has been really good. Seeing it well in the NFL and college football. Guys, check them out, sportsmemo.com or wagertalk.com. All the sports going on right now. Also check out this 1 year all access. And for today, tomorrow, Black Friday as well, we got a special here, guys. $1,000 off his 1 year all access service using the coupon code BF999. That's BF999 for $1,000 off his 1 year all access package at sportsmemo.com or wagertalk.com. Next game up here, Teddy, in the ACC, 175-176, the aforementioned Florida State Seminoles hosting the Virginia Cavaliers. Virginia here, minus 9-point road favorites, 58 the total in Tallahassee, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia beat them last year, 24-17. They were minus 7 in that game, was a push at the closing number. It's a Florida State team that beat North Carolina. You remember that?
Yeah,
exactly. I couldn't either. I'm like, when did Florida State beat that? I'm like, oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah. Since
the win over North Carolina, they lost by 32 to Louisville. They're plus 5.5 in that game. So they're losing by 4 touchdowns against the spread. 24-point loss to Pitt. They're plus 1.5. So a 3-touchdown loss against the spread. I guess they only lost by 16 to NC State plus 12.5. So much better. They only lost by 3 and a hook or 4 against the spread. But the North Carolina win is a long way in the rearview mirror now. And I talked about how one of the things that I do when researching games, the way I Google And one of the things that come up, and that's how I find a lot of these quotes that we talk about. I didn't get a quote here, but I just did a cut and paste from one of the articles. Quote, Mike Norvell wasn't particularly upbeat after Florida State's Tuesday practice, characterizing it as a step back in focus and intensity relative to what the team has been stringing together of late. That's not a good sign for a team that's getting slapped around every week. And now Norvell's telling us that they're a step back in focus and intensity in practice. Now, Jordan Travis did practice on Tuesday, the quarterback who they're hoping will play. The quote was excited where he's at. He was out there making plays, throwing the ball around. So I guess there's something you could say positive about Florida State, but this to me feels very much like a team that just, let it be over, please. You ever get your ass kicked in a fight, Drew? Back in the day.
I was on the losing end of one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, back in the day, I can't, it doesn't happen every day, but you know how you're on the ground, you're beaten up, you're not getting up, and you're just like kind of covering yourself up. You're like, just let it be over. All right, just get tired already. That's kind of like Florida State right now. You know what I mean?
I know what I'm picking up what you're laying down, Teddy. It's just you were laying down on the ground. Did that happen to you a lot as a child?
Not a lot, but
okay.
When you're on a losing end in a fight and there's nothing you're going to do about it, it was 30 years ago. That's what you do. You bring in so they can't break your ribs, and you just kind of lay on the ground and wait for them to get tired. That's where Florida State is right now. Getting much better vibes from Bronco Mendenhall's team. They got 3 straight wins, 4 straight covers since Brennan Armstrong came back in the lineup. Crazy finale of last week's game. Again, you don't want to talk about a Virginia Abilene Christian game. What do you ask me? How many times? Sorry, I got my notes covering it up. How many times you been in that position? I'll say more than once, but not hundreds or anything. I used to get, whatever. Me, I get mad. And when I was 15 years old and I got mad, I would punch somebody, and it didn't always work that well for me. So a couple of times, not every week or anything, I wasn't picked on. Well, I wasn't like horribly picked on as a kid. Bottom line is the bizarre ending of Virginia Abilene Christian last week, which featured an 84-yard pick six at the very end of the game to get the most bizarre cover you'll ever see at minus 39.5. It's a Virginia team that is playing with positive momentum. It's a Florida State team that's playing with none. I don't know if the price is right. You're laying a pretty significant price here with Virginia and a team that they don't have the better athletes. But I want no part of Florida State.
Yeah, I'm with you, Teddy. Florida State's kind of a one-way bet for me until further notice as well. We got 2 games left here, guys, both in the Big Ten. Northwestern at Michigan State up next here, Teddy. Wildcats minus 13 in the hook, 41.5 being the total in East Lansing.
So last year, Sparty beats them 31-10. They were minus 8 in the game. 2018, Northwestern pulled the upset 29-19. Sparty was minus 11 in that ball game. So a pretty significant market shift against Michigan State compared to recent meetings, and deservedly so, being that Northwestern is now apparently the class of the Big Ten West, and Michigan State, boy, they had 2 really bad games before their bye week on both sides of the football, but especially on offense. Now, look, Northwestern was dramatically affected by the cancellation of what is it? The old Oaken Bucket? That's Minnesota.
Yeah.
No, what? Yeah. The Minnesota-Wisconsin game. All right. Dramatically affected because now Wisconsin doesn't win the Big Ten West, and now Northwestern kind of has a cakewalk to play Ohio State for the right to play in a BCS game. It changes the mentality for Northwestern. And my initial reaction was when the Wisconsin game got canceled, boom, bet Michigan State. Because now it's not the same mentality for Northwestern. Their season just got a whole lot easier. They'll have Minnesota and Illinois after this. And we're talking about a team that's 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. So a team that the markets talk about not catching the falling knife. It's the team the markets haven't gotten right this way. Northwestern's better in every game than the markets thought they were going to be, including last week against the Badgers. But they had the blowout win opening day against Maryland, on the day where Tua's kid brother was the worst quarterback I've ever seen. But since that time, the last 4 wins, all by 10 or less. So Northwestern's not a let's blow them out team. Sparty was worse than Rutgers week 1. There was no exaggeration in week 1. They beat a Michigan team that was obviously supremely flawed. Then lose 49-7 at Iowa, 24-0 against Indiana. Those are good defenses, both those teams. Indiana's defense has been surprisingly good. But this is a good defense, too. It's not like Mike Henkwitz doesn't have a great defense. Heavy road favorite is not the role that we're usually seeing for Northwestern. But the Spartans' defense giving up 34 points a game. It's an offense that hasn't worked at any point this season. But it's a first-year coach off a bye, which tends to be a bet-on spot. So I'm going back and forth on this. I did not auto-bet Michigan State at the plus price, but I still lean in their direction. I do like a first-year coach off a bye and a couple of bad losses. I don't love the mentality here for Northwestern. But if Sparty can't move the football, it'll be 21-3 in Northwestern. Maybe the under's worth a look here. But again, we're not talking about a total that's, these 41s are tough to bet under in college football. They really are. But that's the only way I could look in this one right now.
He's Teddy Covers, obviously knows his college football and NFL. Great analysis, like always. We got one game left, guys, but check them out, WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com. 1 year all access pass, BF999, the coupon code, saving you $1,000 for full year access with Teddy Covers. That coupon code is BF999 at checkout. We got last game here, Teddy, for this section. Then we'll bring in Robbie Vino at the 2:00 Pacific hour to break down the next set of games. So guys, stay tuned. Watching live simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, 12 noon Eastern kick in this one, Teddy, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're talking Penn State at Michigan on ABC. Two big programs here. Not the best of seasons, though. 58 the total. Michigan -2 in the hook at home in the Big House.
Yeah, and that promo code, of course, BF for Black Friday, and not BF like best friends. We can be best friends. If you buy my package, I'll be your best friend. Yeah, that happened a lot when I was a kid too. Not. So this is the. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. Make your case. You can make your case. Okay. So there's certainly some thought in the markets that Cade McNamara makes a difference. For Michigan. And sure, they got a spark with him in the lineup last week, 27-36, 4 touchdowns, throwing at another score on the ground. And in the comeback that forced Michigan into overtime against Rutgers, yes, Rutgers moved the football, but they made some of these plays that Rutgers made were just like on 4th down. They've got a guy that caught him great. It wasn't Michigan's defense playing awful. It was Rutgers making good plays. One of those deals that can and does happen. That said, Michigan's allowed 43 points a game and 470 yards a game over the last 3 weeks. They've been torched by mediocre quarterbacks at best, on multiple occasions during that span. And they're a very difficult team for me to trust laying points right now. When the defense isn't good and the offense isn't good, it's an issue. Of course, Penn State's 0-5 for the first time in their history. And James Franklin is not taking it easy this week. Quote, we got to do whatever we got to do to beat Michigan. That has to be our focus. We have to get better today, and we have to find a way to win on Saturday. Obviously, based on a lot of different factors, there's going to be more guys that get to play, some of that out of necessity. I'll talk about that in just a second. But it's all about getting better and all about what we have to do to beat Michigan. There was talk in Happy Valley that Penn State, all right, well, now it's time to, let some of the young guys play. And, they lost Pat Freiermuth, the All-American tight end. They're going to go with the QB rotation. James Franklin, we're going to need both those guys, Sean Clifford and Will Levis, both part of the plans this week. It's not okay. So let me start with this. I don't have to bet the game. If I had to bet the game, I would think it's so cheap to lay with Michigan at home. Aren't they better? But I'm not laying any points with Michigan right now. I'm not. It's a game that I'm fascinated by, but I'm not going to bet. If you bet it, best of luck.
All right, Teddy. No, that's a great way to put it. I'm not going to be betting it either. And heck, you're an alumni of Michigan, and you're not looking to touch this one. So I'll take. What? Did I catch you off guard there?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, people that say I'm an alumni. And I sent a tweet about this yesterday. The very first big bet I made in college football when I moved to Las Vegas. The first big, I bet the first time I loaded up on a game was Sparty, but plus, I don't remember it, but they were double digits, like plus 10, plus 11 in the big house against my Wolverines. And that was a game that Plexico Burris went wild. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the big house. Michigan State won straight up. And I was going nuts. Sparty, Plexico, I don't care. Michigan, my senior year, they screwed me with my financial aid package. I've never forgiven. I will not forget or forgive. I mean, they put it in a way that I wasn't going to go to grad school. I couldn't do anything until I wasn't going to get my degree, a copy of my degree, until I paid them the unmet need, the $1,000 unmet need in my financial aid package. And I was hungry my senior year. I was working 2 jobs and taking classes, and I was freaking hungry. And that was them not, I got no problem. I bet against Michigan in the national title game when they played Louisville. I bet again, when they played a couple years back, they were there. No problems fading the Wolverines. My alumni status ended. I'm still an alumni, but I could care less. I have no loyalty towards my alma mater.
Yeah, find the winners. That's more important. So, guys, you heard it there on the Penn State Michigan breakdown. Check them out. Teddy covers Sports Memo or WagerTalk.com. And, guys, we got that 1-year all-access package, Black Friday special, BF999 at checkout for Teddy covers. So, Teddy, can you leave us here on record with the most confident play of the section?
Pitt plus 24.
Pitt plus 24, the underdog going up against Clemson here. Look towards the Panthers plus the 24 from Teddy Covers. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Myself on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Guys, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a line below in the comments section on YouTube, or and please smash the like button. That does help us out. Huge shout out to the chat box. Thank you, everybody out there. And Teddy, anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
I want to say happy Thanksgiving, guys. Please be safe out there. It's a crazy betting weekend. Bet with your head, not with your heart. Bet with your bankroll, not all of your bankroll. And good luck. Enjoy the games. And we'll do it again next week.
Yep, Teddy will be back next week as well, so stay tuned for that. And also, guys, stay tuned for Robbie Vino coming up in about 13 minutes here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. We got